Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. We've got this stack of sources, but they're not about a single topic. They're from a show, one that reviews, the week's happenings. It's called Past Week Next Week.
That's right. And our mission today is really to, well, deep dive into the format and the content of this particular program. It describes itself as, I think the quote is, just goofiness, fellowship, and fun. And they specifically say nothing inspirational, deep, or motivating. But we're going to see if we can pull out some interesting nuggets anyway.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to try and unpack how this show, even with that lighthearted mission, kind of gives this snapshot of current events, pop culture, personal stuff. And what does that tell us about how people engage with information and, maybe how goofiness can actually be a lens for understanding things. So, yeah, get ready for some surprising facts, maybe a bit of humor as we explore what they talked about in their past week and what's coming up. Okay, so let's start with the show's identity, because it's quite something. They call themselves a comedy show, focus on goofiness, fellowship, and fun. But when you look at the sheer range of topics they cover, some quite serious, what really strikes you about that self-description?
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is that contrast. It's stark, isn't it? This lighthearted frame they put on it, it almost feels like, a Trojan horse. For getting into deeper stuff, they promise nothing inspirational, but then they're tackling political redistricting, celebrity legal issues, and the show itself, it has this pretty clear structure, though it seems flexible. Usually kicks off with a song, then they might do news quizzes, pop culture, headlines, predictions, that kind of thing. It sets this rhythm, this informal rhythm, that lets them mix the serious and the silly.
And it's not just the topics or the structure, is it? It's the way they deliver it.
Yeah.
The hosts, the sources mention Chris, Paul, Boogie, sometimes Dexter or Texter, who's apparently also Brian. They have this really informal, almost like transparent style. They talk about technical problems, right? Like a camera not working for one guy, and someone joked it was all worth it just to see his mug.
Yeah, exactly. And they actively encourage people to chime in.
Yeah.
They mentioned call-ins, text. They even gave out the number, 913-735-0060,
Okay.
and YouTube live comments.
Right.
So that whole informal personality-first approach, warts and all, just makes the information feel really accessible, relatable. You're not just listening. It feels a bit like you're, eavesdropping on friends talking.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that builds a kind of trust. Maybe it lowers the barrier for the more complex topics they sometimes bring up, allows them to slip in their own takes on things, but under that umbrella of goofiness.
Precisely. It becomes a vehicle for this sort of shared understanding, even when they're just, riffing.
Okay, so let's get into the past week segment. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. It often starts with a song, and this week it was "See You Later, Alligator." And the explanation for why, well, it's quite a creative leap.
Oh, indeed. The connection they drew, right, between alligator and Alcatraz,
Yeah.
linking it somehow to a court order about Alcatraz either being gone or maybe just changing staff. It wasn't totally clear.
It's a real stretch, but it's kind of typical of their style, isn't it? Using that kind of tangential humor wordplay.
Yeah.
It makes something maybe dry, like a court order, feel more human, memorable even.
Totally. And they use it as a jumping off point, too. Talked about how perceptions change, like how 1950s rock and roll dancing used to be seen as scandalous, the devil, causing a hissy fit. And they mentioned musicians passing, like Ronnie Spector, Eddie Money, real rock and rollers.
So they bridge that history, pop culture, and then they dive right into everyday life stuff, especially, it seems, local food. We got a pretty detailed breakdown of barbecue joints this week.
Oh, yeah, that's a big part of it. Cultivating that local expertise. Like Chris's take on LC's barbecue, he said it was pretty good, but he still prefers Arthur Bryant's.
Okay.
But then Paul apparently thinks LC's has the best sandwich in town, the beef sandwich. Though he did say the beef burnt ends were tough this time, preferred the tip.
See, that's specific. And then Boogie chimed in.
Yeah, Boogie was raving about a place called Fahrenheit 325s. It's in North Kansas City. Mentioned their Mexican corn specifically, and a rib and brisket combo plate. These aren't just food reviews. They're building that community feel, right? Shared language, shared experience.
Definitely. And it wasn't just food. They shared a lot about their social lives, local events, too. One host went to Tom's Stock, a cancer fundraiser. Apparently, the VIP night had a Jimmy Buffett cover band called the Land Sharks.
Okay. And someone saw Paul Richardson's band, the Pepper Sprouts, play at a place called the Nighthawk.
Right. And then there were these sweet experiences at games. One host went to a Kansas City Chiefs preseason game. Whitney's job got the suite, So the Chiefs looked great in the first quarter, but then lost the game.
Ah, classic preseason.
Yeah. And another host was at the Rose game, also in a suite, this one from his wife's company. He was describing the food, this dessert cart, like a Zeppelin in 1932, and even jokingly asked if the company was hiring.
Huh. See, those little anecdotes, they seem trivial, but they paint this picture. Shows they're embedded in the community. They also touched on more civic stuff, like a Women's Council Realtors event.
Right.
Had mayors from several local towns, Techstone Prairie Village, Edwardsville, Riverside, Independence.
Oh, interesting. What did they talk about?
Just discussing their towns. But the hosts noted the Independence mayor isn't running again, which led them to joke about wanting more snarky politicians.
Okay.
And looking ahead, one host mentioned plans to go to a Monarchs baseball game. United Consumers Credit Union is hosting. That led to talk about the Monarchs playing at Legend Field near the Speedway, and how they've embraced the Negro League's history. Buck O'Neill, Satchel Paige. Plus that recent big news about MLB finally merging the Negro League's records.
Wow. Okay, so it really is this weave, isn't it? Personal stories, local reviews, food, sports, history, even a bit of local politics, all bundled together in this very unique package.
Exactly. It's a quirky snapshot, but it shows how everyday life bumps up against these bigger cultural and historical things.
So moving on, the news quiz and showbiz news segments. This is where that goofiness as a Trojan horse idea really seems to play out. They take on some pretty heavy topics, politics, legal stuff, but always with that lighter touch.
Absolutely. And this is where you really see popular media, even something aiming for laughs, acting as this filter for current events. Their discussions, especially when they touch on politics, they sort of implicitly comment on competence, hypocrisy, maybe the breakdown of norms, but all in their style.
Can you give an example from the news quiz?
Sure. They talked about Texas Representative Nicole Collier. She apparently slept in the State House to protest that redistricting bill, trying to avoid being arrested, right?
Yeah.
And the hosts didn't just report it. According to the sources, they mused about how good people in politics get pressured into doing things they wouldn't normally do. Yeah, and they drew parallels to the Missouri legislature, apparently framing it as this sort of pressure cooker situation.
Okay. And what else came up in the quiz?
Well, there was the Justice Department investigation into Houston police, allegations of falsifying data to make crime rates look lower. One host linked that to broader claims about data manipulation.
Right. And didn't they mention Kristi Noem?
Oh, yeah. The Homeland Security Secretary suggesting painting the border wall black to make it hotter, deter climbers. Which prompted the host to ask pretty pointedly, what about nighttime?
Huh. Yeah, okay. It's definitely commentary mixed in with the news.
For sure. They also covered the indictment of the New Orleans mayor, LaToya Kenrell. Allegedly hid a relationship with her bodyguard, paid him for non-work. The hosts quipped, it is the big easy.
A bit cynical there.
A bit. And on a much more serious note, they mentioned the tragic suicide of a young 30-year-old Estonian MP in the Parliament building. So you see the range. From that, they can pivot right into showbiz news.
Yeah, it's quite the shift. So what was happening in showbiz, according to them?
Let's see. Mariah Carey is getting the MTV VMA Video Vanguard Award, which they noted was a milestone because she'd been nominated 9 times but never actually won Moon Person, as they call it. She's going to perform a medley. Then, Blake Lively. She's starring in a rom-com called Survivalist.
Yeah.
But the discussion apparently also highlighted her ongoing legal fight and the sexual harassment allegations against director Justin Baldoni. Yeah. So mixing the fluff with the serious again.
Right. And reality TV, always a staple.
Oh, yeah. Survivor is back for season 49, 2-hour premiere, and they're making the 90-minute episodes permanent now.
Good news for fans, I guess. What about streaming?
They covered a few things. HBO Max has Peacemaker Season 2 coming.
Oh.
John Cena, DC Universe stuff. They mentioned a Hot Girl and Green Lantern being kind of shoehorned in during a flashback.
Okay.
Netflix has that Justin Smollett documentary. The host sounded nervous about Smollett's involvement, maybe affecting the objectivity. Also something called Long Story Short on Netflix.
And Hulu.
Hulu had Ian Meany and this other show, Are You My First? Described as like Bachelor in Paradise, but all the contestants are virgins.
Oh, wow. That's a concept.
Yeah. They specifically mentioned a 34-year-old guy being on it and a 24-year-old guy being upset about his presence. Sparked some chat, apparently. And they also just finished watching a Biggest Loser documentary.
Okay, so yeah, news, politics, celebrity drama, reality TV. It's all filtered through their commentary. It does make you think about, objectivity in documentaries or the weirdness of some reality TV trends.
Exactly. You get their unvarnished take, which kind of prompts you, the listener, to think about how you consume that stuff too.
Now, things seem to really heat up when they got deeper into the political landscape, redistricting especially. But then, in classic fashion, they can swing right back to something totally different, like breakfast burritos.
It's that constant juxtaposition, isn't it? It really makes you wonder, how do people balance the big, heavy political stuff with just everyday life? The joys, the frustrations. This show models that constantly.
So what was the political firestorm about? Redistricting again.
Yeah, California this time. Governor Gavin Newsom's text came up about a proposed state law called the Election Rigging Response Act. Apparently, it's a reaction to those Texas congressional maps that might cost Democrats 5 seats.
Wow. Okay. Directly calling it election rigging.
And interestingly, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's generally been anti-Trump, apparently came out against his California Act.
Huh. So, complex reactions there.
Definitely. And the hosts, according to the sources, talked about this feeling of a civil war, the general ickiness of redistricting. They even drew these pretty heavy historical parallels to Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Compromise of 1876.
Whoa! Okay. That's intense for a comedy show.
Right. They apparently put forward this theory about white deficients who stack the deck politically because they think they're losing. It's a provocative framing.
Did they elaborate on the history?
Yeah, a bit. Contrasted Lincoln's malice towards none idea with how Reconstruction actually played out under later Republicans. Mentioned Grant's perceived incompetence, the failure to really address the roots of racism. Even compared how the U.S. rebuilt Japan after World War II to what might have been possible in the South after the Civil War, but wasn't done.
That's some deep historical analysis mixed in there.
It really is. They also touched on Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Trump's alleged pursuit of a Nobel Peace Prize, a meeting in Alaska. Discussions about a ceasefire that Trump apparently walked away from after consulting Putin. The hosts highlighted that photo of Trump and Putin, calling it a fanboy picture, and expressed their view of Trump's incompetence in those talks.
Okay, so they're not holding back their opinions there based on the source material.
No, it seems pretty clear. They also discussed Trump's reported plans for expanding law enforcement crackdowns beyond just D.C., pointing out data showing retail traffic is actually down in D.C., despite claims of it being safe.
No.
And mentioning the clearing of homeless encampments without clear relocation plans.
And wasn't there something about an LGBTQ plus hotline?
Yes. They noted the Trump administration had closed a specialty suicide hotline service for LGBTQ plus individuals, and then highlighted how several states, California, Colorado, Nevada, Illinois, North Carolina, stepped in to try and fill that gap.
Okay, so really heavy political topics, and then burritos.
And then burritos, with like zero transition sometimes. One host was raving about his wife Jane's amazing homemade breakfast burritos, but he'd already eaten 2 McDonald's McMuffins that morning.
Oh, no.
Right? He described it as a Sophie's choice, being pissed off at Jane because now he felt forced to eat this burrito. Mentioned a spicy raspberry sauce that came with it.
Spicy raspberry.
Yeah. And apparently Paul, the other host, has this savant ability to eat even while having a coughing fit. Just these very human, relatable moments right after the intense politics.
That's incredible. Any other random anecdotes?
A couple more. The Seattle Kraken mascot, Boogie the sea troll, apparently got charged by a grizzly bear in Alaska's Katmai National Park, leading Boogie to quip, "He was glad I wore my brown pants."
Yeah, okay.
And the great hot dog spill. A tractor trailer crashed on I-83 in Pennsylvania, spilling hundreds of hot dogs. The fire chief was quoted saying conditions were slippery. The hosts apparently had a field day with puns on that one.
I can only imagine. Slippery hot dog.
Exactly. And finally, they touched on the Epstein files, the Ghislaine Maxwell transcripts. But the hosts took this kind of ironic stance, claiming they didn't see anything implicating Trump or in Bill Barr's comments, using it to make a point about people believing with their hearts rather than facts or evidence.
So using irony to comment on confirmation bias, maybe.
Seems like it. And then looking ahead to next week, they talked about the upcoming football season. Ottawa Braves, Missouri State playing at USC Coliseum, games involving Joseph and Gabe, wondering about TV coverage.
Okay, back to personal stuff.
Totally. One host planning a bike ride, maybe a boat ride, going to that Monarchs game we mentioned. Another host planning to make smashed burgers, even after complaining about eating too many burritos.
The cycle continues.
It does. And they mentioned seeing a drone video of the new KU football stadium, the Gary Booth Memorial Stadium.
Right. So this whole section, it really drives home how personal stories, funny moments, serious political discussion, it all exists side by side.
Yeah.
And how media, even text messages from politicians, are all competing for our attention in this weird mix.
Exactly. It reflects that messy, multifaceted reality we all navigate.
So when we wrap this all up, our deep dive into past week next week, it really shows, doesn't it? Even a show that says it's just about goofiness and fun can actually give us this incredibly rich picture. Current events, cultural shifts, just the human experience of trying to figure things out.
And if you zoom out, you see how those personal stories, the local stuff, barbecue, mascot encounters, it's all connected somehow to the bigger national and global picture. This show, in its really unique, kind of funny way, reflects how we all try to filter and process this complex world, often using humor, using shared stories as a way in.
Yeah. Whether it's that symbolic leap from an alligator to Alcatraz or just the pure joy of a really good breakfast burrito, every little detail they share kind of paints this picture of our world and how we talk about it, how we interpret it.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
As you go about your week, think about the sources you encounter. How might the seemingly trivial things, the goofy stuff, actually reveal something deeper about our society, maybe our leaders, or even ourselves if you just, take a moment to really look closer?
Right.
What goofy sources in your own life might hold keys to understanding if you were to give them a bit of a deep dive?